I figured we'd just jump right into it. And guys, if you don't know, Mark is by our standard, big time indie film producer. How many films, Mark, have you produced?
Uh, I don't know. I mean, I've done probably 15 to 20 that are my own, but then I executive produce other people's films occasionally too. So there's things I get involved in just from like a finance and distribution perspective that I'm just an EP, but then there's things where I'm full-fledged creative producer as well.
That'll be a fun thing to break down here in a little bit.
Yeah.
The difference between producing, executive producing. I know that's confusing. I think the best place to start is you're in a place right now that I know myself and tons of people in this audience like are dreaming and hoping to get to one day. So I want to know about your journey. I'm assuming at one point you were also an ignorant filmmaker, like a lot of us, maybe trying to find the
Oh
ropes. So
yeah.
I'm wondering if you can walk us through that time in your life, having the dream and then the path towards like, oh, I get it now. This is actually how you get films made and leading us down the path of where you are today.
Yeah, I mean, like most people, I started, well, I went to film school. I actually went to journalism school and I hated it. I wanted to be a writer. So I started taking film classes because at USC, everybody takes film classes. And I went, oh, I could like do this as a major. That's great. Like to me, it was just like path of least resistance to getting a degree, you know? My senior year, I started working as an intern, development intern for a big A-list producer director duo. Um, and it was good. It was like good experience and interesting to see kind of the inner workings of a studio backed company. But it also showed me very early on that like I didn't really want to chase that or go down that route or like try to be that. I was way more interested, especially because at that point I was really focused on being a writer. Didn't occur to me to be a producer or a distributor or anything like that. But I also didn't want to wait around for somebody to like buy a script or pick me up and push my stuff. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to start producing my own stuff just because that's my personality. Um, so early on, I made the decision like I don't want to be at the mercy of like studio politics or anything like that. I just want to do it on my own terms. I originally set out to make $1 million movie. I thought it would be relatively easy, with my USC degree, and I knew enough people. I'd actually gotten some legitimate actors attached to the project, but I still couldn't raise $1 million because at the end of the day, even though at the time I thought I knew what I was doing, I really didn't. And it was probably painfully obvious. So after about a year of trying to like grind and do that hustle of raising $1 million, I went, you know what? I think I need to reel it in. I ended up making my first film for like $50,000. And it was just like me punching my own ticket. It was like I wrote something that was super low budget in terms of like minimal locations, minimal actors, and I just did something to show people I knew what I was doing, that I could competently produce, direct, and deliver a movie. Um, and then each project after that kind of gradually grew. I did my second one for like 150,000. I did my third one for 350,000. Like they just kind of gradually got bigger. Now I typically work in the like, 1.5 to $3 to $4 million range. That's kind of my comfort zone. I'm not one of those people trying to get bigger than that. Like, I don't want to make Marvel movies, or I always joke. I'm like, if somebody gave me $100 million, I'd make 50 movies, you know? So, like, I've found my comfort level. Like, I'm good where I'm at, but I started very small and I had to, like, eke my way up in budget. But it really wasn't until I started working in distribution that I really figured out how to make it work and scale it. Because my first like 4 films, they were selling all over the world, but none of us were making money, you know? Like whatever money was made was disappearing into the black hole of distribution, which I didn't get. So there came a point, I did have a breaking point at one point, but there just came a point where I said, you know what? Like, I'm going to take a crack at doing this myself because I'm a networking machine, and like, I'm sick of feeling like I'm grabbing my ankles.
Gotcha. Well, and one thing I want to go back on is because obviously my relationship with you, finding your producer course a while back and seeing you get very down to business with us, you're very blunt and telling us what we need to do. But it's refreshing to hear that it sounds like just like me and probably a lot of other people, you're an artist first. Like you wanted to
Yeah.
make films as an artist And that's what led you down this path. It's not that you're one of these, because producers can get a bad rep, or studios, the whole thing, oh, they don't care about the art. And it's like in the indie film space, I meet a lot of people with that exact journey. And it's like, that's really refreshing because you know how to get things done. We can make things profitable, but you're doing it essentially just to green light yourself as an artist, which I think is really
Yeah.
cool.
And you know what? One thing I'll say, like, as from the artistic standpoint, is like, I think I'm pretty good at the artistic side of it. And the reason is like, I have a lot of self awareness. Early on, when I was younger and less mature, I didn't have much self awareness at all. I knew what I wanted to do. I had my delusions of grandeur and whatever. But I didn't really, I wasn't really self aware in terms of my art. I always sounds pretentious to talk about art, but whether you're a writer, a director, a producer, whatever, like you have to be self-aware and humble enough to admit when something's not good or not working. Like I like to say, I can swear on here, right?
Go for it.
Okay, good. I like to say, like, what makes a writer a good writer is they know when they write shit. A bad writer writes shit and thinks it's great. So like I've written things, produced things, directed things that I think were conceptually good, but maybe not executed as well as they could have been. And then I've done things that I know are good. So, when it comes to the artistic side, like, and you have to have that balance of knowing the business and knowing knowing the creative. But on the creative side, there has to be some humility and self awareness. And fortunately, as a sales agent, I see so much low budget independent content. It's easy for me to measure myself and what I'm doing against a lot of what else is out there. But a lot of people get stuck in their own little like tunnel vision, and you have to make yourself aware of what you're up against, what your competition is, so you know where you stand.
And it sounds like you took that even a step further. Hey, no one's going to let me write direct. I'll just learn to produce. And then I'm producing. They're ripping me off in distribution. I'm going to become sales agent producer, like just taking it to the next level. Is that essentially, like you said, that's why you did it? You didn't
Yeah,
necessarily
yeah. I mean,
desire that side, but
yeah, I started as a writer. I got represented as a director, but I always made my living as a producer and line producer.
okay.
And then eventually as a distributor. Again, because I was like, something's not adding up here. Like, making pretty decent little independent features, and they're going everywhere. Like, I used to get emails from people on social media and stuff, like earlier in my career, from people in foreign countries, like, just want to meet you. I just watched this movie. I loved it. I'm like, I didn't even know my movie sold there, you know? So distribution's a dirty side of the business. So I wanted to do it because I'm like, if somebody's going to screw me, it's going to be me, you
Yeah.
know? It's not going to be somebody else.
No, that I think that's how I found your course initially. See, I was in a weird situation where I kind of ended up self-funding my own film. So
Yeah.
I had been seeing most of your things were about film financing. And I was like, oh, I'm going to need to get back into that soon. But then people were telling me about the distribution side. So I actually took your course backwards, did all the distribution stuff first, which kind of set me on my game plan for going doing the film I just did. And then
Yeah.
now I've been really diving into the financing side as I'm hopefully going to get a chance to do another project later. But I think that's a good segue. And after learning all that stuff and having all that experience, you decided to give back to the filmmaking community with this, what I would say is a really amazing producer course. So tell us about that whole thing.
Yeah. So, years ago, I used to do like an occasional workshop, like live in person thing. And it was usually like 10 or 15 people, and it was just like kind of going through the motions of logistical producing and what I knew about distribution at that point. And at the time, I did it just to make some extra money. And then a good friend of mine from college, who's now my business partner in Indie Film Ins and Outs, which is the online business, the online program. She's like a digital marketing guru, and she's like, "Hey, we could turn this into something legitimate if we do it online." And I thought about it. I was a little reluctant at first, but ultimately I got talked into it, and I'm glad I did. Like it really became something significant. Um, and I mean, the broad strokes of it, it's like helping independent filmmakers learn how to bridge the gap between the creative and the business. And as you hear me say a lot, like we all know what we want to do as creatives, but very few of us know what we have to do. And unfortunately, there's a big discrepancy between those two things. Like, just because we want to make a certain type of movie doesn't mean it's. I think a lot of us are just really naive when we enter the business. Like, if we just make a really great film, it's going to somehow majestically find its way. And it's just unfortunately not that, like, not that romantic. I wish it was.
Yeah.
Um, but so anyway, we created Indie Film Ins and Outs. It grew into something pretty significant, and we built it into like an amazing community of independent filmmakers, and we've had quite a few of our members actually get movies made, which is awesome.
No, yeah, it really is incredible, guys. And by the way, I think we have it set up. If you guys comment indie film on the chat, it should send you a link to the course in the message, and definitely that'll happen when this is posted after. But I like what you said there. It's like, hey, I tell people all the time, based on the information I got from the course and stuff I learned from Alex Ferrari's and the Film Hustle podcast and other great resources of people that are actually getting stuff done. And the message I got was, hey, marketing, distribution, financing, that is part of filmmaking, at least in the indie film world. And I'm trying to tell people, you can't say, I'm not good at marketing, I'm not good at financing, I'm not good at understanding distribution. I feel like in the indie film space, that's the same thing as saying, I'm not good at lighting. My movie would have been good, but the directing was bad, right? Like, I think as indie
Well,
filmmakers, we have to almost
yeah.
embrace that mentality, or at least find the people that can do it for us.
Yeah, it's like thinking you're the greatest chef in the world, but like, not wanting to learn how to run a restaurant. Just because you make great food doesn't mean the restaurant's just going to like magically do what it needs to do. You still have to build it as a business. Same thing with a film. Like if you watch Shark Tank, like that's the most like dumbed down, streamlined version of kind of what you need to do with your film. It's like you need to figure out how to evaluate it, like figure out what your movie is worth as, in terms of the package
Before you make it.
and before you make it, and then back into a budget based on that. Otherwise, you're just like spending money arbitrarily and like thinking pie in the sky. Like I'd say the biggest mistake I see indie filmmakers make is they assume that the real market value of their film is whatever they made it for plus a lot more. They're like, oh, I spent $1 million, so my movie has to make at least $1 million. It's like, well, just because you spent $1 million doesn't mean that's what it's worth.
Mm-hmm.
Like there is a big difference between the value of something. Like if you go, buy a car and overpay by $20,000 and then go to flip it and you realize you got screwed, like that's basically what happens with most filmmakers.
Gotcha. No, that is a great point. And I think also a lot of filmmakers, I know a lot of my audience, because sometimes I get flack for it, are like, the industry's collapsing right now. You hear a lot of that stuff. Hollywood's in trouble. And of course, there's a lot of blame, probably rightfully so, going to the big studios and the mess they've made. But I think what a lot of people don't realize is it's not always a somebody versus somebody situation. The market in film has massively declined, right, between before streaming to now. And I think most average, even filmmakers, don't understand that. And they think, oh, they used to do this and now they're just screwing us. But could you explain from your perspective, like what the market was like before streaming and what it's been like adapting to that?
Yeah. So I wouldn't even refer to it as like specifically about streaming. It's really about the internet. Because the same thing happened with music, that's happening with movies now. But the fact of the matter is, it's not just that there's such a huge difference between streaming and the blockbuster days, which there's definitely a difference, and I'll explain it. But the fact of the matter is, we're competing with social media, TikTok, all these different things for people's eyeballs and people's time. Like how many times 20 years ago, it wouldn't have occurred to me to sit down and watch YouTube. I'd sit down and turn on a movie. Now I sit down 8 out of 10 times that I sit on the couch, I turn on YouTube.
Same.
I'm not watching movies. But
YouTube
the
is
way
my television.
Yeah, yeah. So again, everybody's got like that TikTok attention span. And again, it's like it's not that streaming is so different. It's just that we are competing for people's attention more so than ever. But the big difference between like back in the day before streaming and streaming is, in the blockbuster days, if anyone's old enough to remember that, like you walked in and you went to the new releases and like you picked something off the shelf. And the shelf was like real estate. There was only so much of it. So everybody was competing to get their movie on the shelf. And if you made a movie good enough to get on the shelf, inherently you made money. I remember the first movie I made that got on the shelf at Blockbuster. It was like such a huge win for me. You
Right.
know, it was like getting into like a huge film festival. Like we got our movie on the shelf at Blockbuster. That was like a big deal. And it didn't mean like we got rich or anything. It was just like it felt like we had arrived, you
Yeah.
know?
Mhm.
Now with streaming, there's no shelf space. It's the cloud. So there's room for everything. So now it's not about getting your movie on the shelf. It's about how do you make it stand out? Because there's just so much stuff and most
Mhm.
of it sucks.
Yeah. Mark, real quick, are you connected to your Wi-Fi right now?
I couldn't tell you. Why are you not hearing me well?
No, no, it's just it was a little green. Don't worry about it if you don't know how to pull it down and turn it off. It's not a big deal.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't want to take the chance I'm going to sign myself off
yeah,
somehow.
no, you're good. You're good. Everyone can hear you, and that is the main thing that matters.
Okay.
Um, but sorry, I lost my thought there. What you were saying
We
about
were talking about the shelf space versus
yes,
streaming.
no, it's funny. I'm 31, so I filmmakers in my age, and I've talked to some of them. We're in this weird thing where we grew up when that was the cool thing to do, and
Yeah.
imagine what it would be like to play in a theater and to get your movie on the shelves at a Blockbuster. But
Yeah.
now we're at the age where we can finally do that, and those kind of things don't exist, right? And even
Yeah.
festivals we can get into, right, are not as valuable as they were, and also were never as valuable, I think, as people made them out to be, at least not most of them, right? So it's almost like, what is that success moment? What should people look for nowadays to kind of feel the same feeling as a Blockbuster on the shelf 15, 20 years ago, or even smaller theatrical releases, which barely happen anymore?
Yeah, I mean now I think it's getting like an SVOD, like pay one license, like a Hulu or a Netflix or a Stars or something like that. I think would probably be the equivalent because those are incredibly difficult to get, even more now so than ever. But again, those deals aren't as shiny as everyone thinks. Like, I can't tell you how many people are like, I have a movie that's perfect for Netflix. Or like, I really, like they'll kill to get their movie on Netflix. Netflix is probably one of the worst paying platforms around. Um, I have not put a movie on Netflix since like 2018 because their offers are garbage. They
Yeah.
are so predatory. It's insane. Most of my movies end up on either like Hulu or Stars because they're, maybe less eyeballs, but it's a much better deal for an array of reasons.
And is the eyeballs thing even true? Because if your movie gets on Netflix, but Netflix doesn't tell anybody it's there, you almost maybe would rather be on those other three platforms if you can get eyeballs on it easier.
Yeah, I don't know how the metrics work. I mean, I hear people all the time say, "Oh, my movie's on Netflix, 500 million people are watching it." It's like you don't really know that, you know? Not to mention there's all sorts of metrics for like not just if people watch something, but how much of something people watch. Like one thing that makes your film successful is if people watch it all the way through. That's why I talk a lot about like going back to the creative and the writing is like learning how to pace your
Mm-hmm.
script and your movie and the edit. Like there's no such thing as a slow burn anymore. Like if you
Yeah.
don't grab people right away and like keep them glued to the screen, they will move on because again, TikTok attention span and they got a billion choices of things to watch.
Yeah. Yep. No, exactly. And I would argue like the AVOD platforms, especially like one, you have to, get eyeballs on, but the watch time matters because it's and creators, guys,
Yes,
you know this YouTube works the exact same way. You want your in our Instagram reels, any of our social content, watch time is like the number one indicator.
correct.
And movies, in the grander definition of things, are other pieces of content, and they're on the same type of tech platforms that all this other content is. So you're right; it's all competing for the same attention. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I hear people all the time like pitch me, well, it's kind of a slow burn. It's like The Godfather. It's like you're not Coppola
Well, that's
and
true,
you
right? You're
cannot,
not, and it's not a time period where people were okay with being locked in the theater because there was
that's
no
right.
other screen they could go to. Where now the reason these hooks matters, and even as someone who appreciates cinema, I find myself being really antsy if the first 10, 15 minutes of a movie aren't making me go, I
Yeah.
have to know what happens.
Exactly. Exactly. The only time I'll watch a movie that's like 3 hours long is if I'm like captive on an airplane.
Right? Yeah.
you know?
Or like if it's Christopher Nolan, I'll give him a chance, right? Like
Sure.
maybe.
Again, airplane.
Yeah. Well, okay. What I want to segue into a bunch of the questions we got, right, were these very broad ones that are, I know, very difficult to answer. So to kind of lump a lot of the more broad questions in order to save time and be more fun, what I figured I would do is kind of be like a devil's advocate, sort of. You play investor slash distributor, producer, and I will play the role of filmmaker who wants to get movie made,
Right.
right? And come to you. Obviously, a ton of the questions were about how do I get investors? What do I put on my pitch decks? I'm going to cover that all like this. Hey, Mark, you're an investor. My name's Michael, and I wrote this really cool script. Um, it took me 2 years to write, and my best friend is going to DP it. He's been working really hard, and we're all coming together, and we're going to shoot it next year. And we really think we can get this actor attached, X A-list actor, and we're looking for around $2 million. Now, my DP, I'm telling you, you should see some of the music videos he shot. He is ready to take that next step. I want to direct it, obviously. This has been my dream, and I'm really hoping you can make this dream happen for me. I'm getting the money, right?
Yeah. So as an investor, there's always three important things that an investor is going to want to know, and you have to be able to articulate them with actual real information. First, how much money do you want, and why are you asking for that amount? Like, what validates that amount of money? Which I have an answer to.
Well, we
Second,
think a million would be right because I just priced it out, and I think like I've seen a lot of movies that are around a million, and I think that's what we're going for that. So it just seems right to me that that's the budget we would get.
right. So what kind of data do you have to back it up? Like, and again, I'm going to go out of character here for a second, but like one thing I see in almost everybody's pitch decks is the comparisons of like, well, I'm making, a movie like Paranormal Activity and that was made for 300 grand. It made 300 million. So like, that's what I'm going to do. And these anomalies, these lightning in a bottle examples are often used to represent the norm. That's a problem. You can use those as examples of what's possible, but not what is the standard, what is the norm. Fact of the matter is, most indie films don't make money for a lot of the reasons I discussed earlier, people spending arbitrarily and whatnot.
Mm.
So again, if you're asking me for $1 million, it's like, first of all, how did you come to that amount? And where is all that money going to?
Well, I'll get a
So
little bit
having
smarter, but you can still tear it down because I see this a lot and I know it from your course. Well, these three horror movies, X, Y, Z, all made last year. They had $2 million budgets, and look what they did at the box office. And we even think we're going to get a couple of these same actors. So it's pretty obvious that we can have these same type of box office numbers, right? Look at all this profit. We hear that a lot, right? Like, explain to us why
sure.
that is
And
totally a misconception.
and dumb money might look at that and take it at face value and go, awesome. Fact of the matter is you can't substantiate what the real budgets or the real box office is on those movies, and you also don't know how much money went into things like print and advertising, marketing, etc., beyond the actual budget of the film. So people look at it as like, oh, the movie cost $1 million and it made 10, they made $9 million. No, that's not really the case because there's a lot of layers of money going to everywhere from guild residuals to distribution costs to print and advertising, et cetera, before $1 even goes back to the recoup of the budget.
And
So
explain some of those tiers because when people see that's, and I remember being like this too, guys. Don't worry, you see a movie, oh, $100 million movie, blockbuster. It has by the fifth week, they say it's made 700 million, and you're thinking that's a huge profit margin. Now that movie
right.
probably is in the green, correct, but not as much as people think. Explain where money's coming off the top and why that number is actually a lot smaller.
Yeah, I mean, in the studio system, they're typically spending at least 50% of the budget of the movie just for print and advertising. When I say 50%, I mean 50% on top
Yeah.
of the budget. So if they spend 100 million, they might spend 150 million or more once you take print and advertising into consideration. That money gets paid back first. So that adds a whole nother layer. Now, distributors are taking gross fees. And those can range depending on what type of deal. Sales agents like myself, who are actually licensing the movie, we take gross fees. That comes off the top. Guild residuals like the Screen Actors Guild, the Writers Guild, etc. They take their money off the gross, off the top. So there's all these layers of money going elsewhere before it pays $1 back to an investor. So these are the things you have to account
The
for.
theater takes half of a ticket. The Amazon platform, if you're doing TVOD, is taking half of that $10
Yeah.
right?
So my new movie is actually releasing this Friday, which I know we'll talk about, but they are releasing it in some theaters. And I was actually, when they came back and told us they were going to do less theaters than originally planned, I was actually happy about that. And the reason is like, yeah, I'm glad my movie's going on the big screen, but it's very expensive. Putting your movie into theaters is usually a loss leader. The reason they do it is because it raises the premiums that people pay for it on the platforms. They don't do it to actually sell tickets. So I was actually happy. I'm like, good. I want it in as few theaters as possible so that we can start making money.
What is the minimum amount of theaters you need to play in to sort of qualify for, no, we were a theater movie when you move into those streaming deals?
Like 5. Okay. Yeah. But that's
And
like 5
playing in
different
5 versus
cities.
20 doesn't affect those margins when you get into
It
that? Just
it can, but ultimately the goal is to get it into the in theaters now category on the streamers. People are paying a premium because they're watching a movie that's also in the theaters. So if they open it, 5, 10, 15, 20 screens in each, not in each city, but like 1 or 2 in each major city, LA, Chicago, Detroit, Atlanta, Dallas, like whatever, then they check that box. But anyway, going back to what the investor is going to want to know, how much and why is it that much? So to be able to validate why you're asking for a certain amount, you have to show a legitimate budget breakdown and ideally some like global projections or something to validate that the market value of the movie covers the spread of the budget. Then investors always going to want to know how long is the money going to get tied up. This is another place most people screw up and go, oh, 12 months, 18 months, whatever. It's like, I know what the hell I'm doing. And if I can get my movie in the black, meaning fully recouped within 18 to 24 months of the release, then I'm happy.
yeah.
That's 18 to 24 months of the release. That means we probably got the money more than a year prior to that.
Mm-hmm.
So, when I see these like 12, 18, 24-month projections, it's like, no. Not to mention, you don't ever want to say this is how long it's going to take to fully recoup. That's another mistake they make. They always go, well, you'll make your money back by this point. No, you always want to say, this is the point we project at which you'll start to see returns. You're projecting the amount of time it's going to take for the movie to actually start bringing money back. Because once it's at that point, it's kind of on autopilot. Beyond that, you can't really control how quickly it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third thing is what's the potential uh, return on investment, ROI? How much money can they actually make, and what incentives are there, whether they're tax incentives or what kind of financial incentives, whatever. So those are the 3 things: how much and why, how long is the money tied up, and what's the potential ROI. Those are the 3 things every investor, savvy or not, is going to want to know, and you have to be able to articulate in a way that's actually viable.
And I love what you said about the real projections. Explain a little bit more about that, because a lot of filmmakers, I know myself, before your course, had no idea how to go about possibly getting those. And I won't give away the sources that you have in the course, but the course explains how to really get these. And when I first saw that, it was like, whoa, I can do that. So, oh, baby, can you hear? Oh, I lost your volume for a second, but you're back. Okay.
You got me? Okay.
Yep.
So getting projections, it's not something you can typically do yourself. Usually you have to align and collaborate with somebody like me who's a sales agent. But basically, sorry, I got a siren going by. Basically, we create a valuation for the movie. We can say, based on this script with this director and this proposed cast, and we can actually break down, based on our market insights and feedback from our distribution clients what we can expect to sell the movie in around the world. And then based on that total, we have an idea of what the global value of the project is. Now, if my global number comes out to 2 million bucks and my budget is 3, that movie is not bankable. If my total, my projections come out to 2 and my budget's at 1.5, I'm in the safe zone, or if it comes out to 2 and my budget's at 2, but now I have like a regional incentive that's going to give me some cushion, I'm in the safe zone. But like, that's how you know you're not spending like arbitrary money. Um,
Other
and
most of
yeah,
the time.
yeah. It's like on Shark Tank when they come in and they're like, we want $1 million in exchange for 10% of our business. It's like, okay, you're evaluating your business at $10 million. If $1 million represents 10%, it's the same concept.
Yeah.
But this is the type of basic economic stuff you have to get comfortable with if you want to effectively raise money.
Yep. No, I agree. Okay.
Because the last thing you want to do is dangle a carrot that you can't back up and then have somebody come after you because they say you misrepresented. Like, my money wasn't supposed to be tied up this much, this long. You promised me this, whatever it is.
Mhm. And I know we could go on forever and ever about all the different things investors want. And guys, if you want all that information, get the course. Like it's mind changing and it's
Yes.
hours and hours long. But I think if we could simplify it, it's really as simple as what you said. Get the budget assessed and then make sure that the projections match that. And that's the one thing, understandably so, that just most of us filmmakers are never even thinking about because we're artists first. So we're always thinking of a story we want to tell and building a script, building a movie, and then a budget that we think is justified without even taking into account, is there an audience for this? So I think,
Yeah.
is that correct? Right? Just people need
That's
to be working
correct.
on the
I mean,
budget and the projection and then
correct. Correct. Especially when you get up to that point where you're making like movies with real money and prominent talent and whatnot. A lot of filmmakers when they start out like I did when I started, and you're making like super low budget movies. Usually filmmakers are not overspending, they're underspending, which is
yeah,
good, but underspending can, ultimately be dangerous too because
definitely.
you're potentially cutting corners in a way that can inhibit you, you know, making a film that has a shot at making money.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm also kind of preaching that too. And I'm glad you brought that up because I never wanted to be the indie filmmaker that figured how to do everything out himself. Like, that's not the
Yeah.
movie I'm trying to make. I'm not trying to be on every single credit. Like, I want to direct, I want to bring my vision to life. And I actually crave, like, no, I want a DP that's incredible to make the images for me. I want an editor who's brilliant to take the story to the heights that I want to take it to. I mean, in my opinion, correct me if I'm wrong, but directing and producing to a degree is just assembling an incredible team and then giving them the resources to execute on the specialist tasks, right?
Well, producing, I would agree. Directing, I think there's a bit more to it than that. But on the producer front, that's correct. Like, you're trying to assemble the most elevated team you possibly can. And then beyond that, you're just a firefighter.
Yeah, no, exactly. I love that. Now I want to move just quickly into distribution.
Sure.
Same thing, kind of. I think my movie's worth this much. Where do filmmakers go wrong when they finish a film and they go into the market, I guess? They probably don't even use that term, but just what are the biggest mistakes or things to look out for, especially in today's market?
Well, sales agents and distributors are very predatory, so you really have to vet them like thoroughly. And there's ways to do that, which our program goes like deep dive on, best practices and how to vet sales agents and distributors. But also, I'd say one of the biggest mistakes filmmakers make is they focus for too much and too long on festivals. I mean, festivals are fine, but like they don't, unless you're going to a really top tier festival, you're not adding big value by going to a bunch of festivals. Festivals are great for networking and winning accolades and whatever, getting audience reactions. But what I would say is you don't want to spend a year and a half just going to film festivals before you start the distribution hustle. You want to go after both simultaneously. And the reason is your movie's only new for a pretty small window of time. And especially once it's on IMDb, it's very challenging to change that year of production. And I see this happen a lot where like a film goes into a festival in 2023, and then by the time a distributor gets a hold of it and it's going to get released, it's like 2025, 2026. Well, guess what? To the buyers internationally, that already looks like an old movie, and it
Mhm.
greatly devalues the movie. So, like
And do you think
doing
it's just the
things.
year that does that? They're simply going, oh, 2023, it's years old, or you're saying movies even 4 years, 3 years passing are lower quality than That's How Fast, or is it both of those things?
No, no, no. It's mostly just the year,
The year,
especially
okay.
especially in like a lot of Asian territories and European territories. Anything beyond like 2 to 3 years old on IMDb is considered a library title, and it's like driving a car off the lot. It's just
Got
greatly devalued. You get
got
like 2 market cycles, like 2 years where your film is considered new. So that's where you really want to like strike while the iron's hot is when it's new. Because you can't, your film's never going to be new more than once.
hmm
So again, like chasing the festivals concurrently with like doing the distribution hustle, I think that's one of the biggest things most people should be aware of.
And I think what would be really helpful for the audience, because I remember it took me a while to wrap my head around these different entities, but explain the difference between a distributor, an aggregator, and a sales agent.
Sure. So a sales agent, which is what I do, that's like a talent agent for an actor. So if I acquire the rights to a movie, I am now the sales representative for the movie worldwide. I represent the movie and the producer, and I'm selling the distribution rights territory by territory, country by country, all over the world. The distributor is the actual entity that buys or acquires the film and then releases it across all the different platforms. An aggregator is like a distributor, but it's more of a DIY version of a distributor in that you're basically paying an upfront fee, and they're placing it on as many platforms as they can, and then you control it and own it. The downside is traditional distributors have a machine behind them in terms of marketing, in terms of, having, output deals with certain platforms where they can get you better deals. An aggregator isn't doing that. They're just kind of like putting it out and seeing where they can get it. So you're owning more of, I guess what it comes down to is like you have a bigger piece of the pie, but it may be a much smaller pie.
Yeah. What I've been kind of telling filmmakers is look, if you have a really low budget film that probably isn't meant for a distributor that's going to
Yeah.
put marketing behind it, the aggregator route might be best, or like the Film Hub platform. Get it
Yeah.
on when you can and then tell your friends it's there. And if your budget's low enough, you might even still recoup even without
Agreed.
expensive marketing. If you're
Agreed.
moving into the, I don't know, over $150,000 range, you might need the resources that distributors provide because now you're going to need someone to tell people where it is, right? Even to get a budget like that back most of the time.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I also need distributors to pay me minimum guarantees or advances, to cover my budget.
Gotcha. Yes, because you deal a lot with pre-sales, which I know for me and a lot of people are like, what? How do I get into that? But explain that whole concept of how you basically can get some of the money, not necessarily up front, I guess. Like how does that work? Pre-sales.
Yeah. So the idea is, and this is how I get most of my movies financed, is that I package the movie, meaning, and that's not an easy thing to do. It's convenient for me to say, but I've been doing it long enough that I have the ability to do it where I can package a script with a certain caliber of movie star and a director, and then I can pre-sell the distribution rights to that movie to a distributor before ever making the movie. So, for example, on my new movie that's coming out, oh, I thought I had the poster back here. I don't. It's called Prisoner of War. We spent about $2 million on the movie. I pre-sold half my budget, so I pre-sold about $1 million of distribution rights to various territories, so that I could cover that much of my budget. Now, that money isn't. It's not like they pay you out up front. They might pay you a small amount as a deposit. I still have to get the cash to cover that. But the point is, like, these are bankable contracts that I can either use as collateral for a loan, or I can go to an investor and say, well, I need 2 million, but you're guaranteed to get 1 million back as soon as I finish the film.
Mm-hmm. So the pre-sale is not upfront money. You don't get the money to make the film. You just more get a guarantee that a
Yeah,
certain
you
percentage,
you
maybe up to half, will be returned to you. But you still have to go
correct.
find cash and shoot the film.
Yeah, yeah. So you might get like 10% upfront as a deposit. But again, those contracts pay out when you deliver the film. So when the film is finished and you're actually literally delivering the assets to the distributor, that's when they pay out those pre-sales.
Gotcha. Well, give us some. I mean, that was great. And guys, I want to move on to some other things here because we don't want to keep Mark too long. Mark, tell us more just about the course. Like, sell it to us. And
Yeah,
guys,
sure.
I've never taken or worked with anyone on a product on this channel. We've had a lot of opportunities the last 6 months, and I just never wanted to because I don't want to push anything to anyone unless I can vouch for it. And guys, I took this course, and it's one of the key reasons why this page exists and why we're bringing a feature film to market in 2026. So I can vouch for it. But Mark, tell us what we can learn inside the course.
Yeah, so indie film ins and outs is basically everything film school doesn't teach you. I went to one of the biggest, most prestigious film schools in the world. I learned all about history and theory and genre and production. It prepared me virtually not at all for how the actual industry and business functions. So everything that I cover in the course, it's very much through the lens of a distributor. So it's all through the lens of like finance and distribution. It's not telling you how to shoot or light or that's film school.
Yeah,
Like
we already
this is
know.
all, yeah, this is all about how do you build a project, develop a project in a way that it's actually investable for an investor. And then how do you set it up so that it's going to be appealing to distributors once it's finished? That's basically the broad strokes of it. Like I said, it's everything film school doesn't teach you.
Yeah.
And then as part of the pro, no, you do it at your own pace or whatever. But a big part of the program is the community too. Like we
Yes.
have a really interactive group, people like collaborating on stuff together. We do weekly calls and Q&As and brainstorming and pitch sessions and all that kind of stuff too.
And those are so helpful, guys. I mean, like the course is great. I've gone through it several times, repeated my favorite sections, but every week, multiple times a week, Mark, it seems like there's a coaching session call. Then there's these like there's different. I can't even remember all the ones you guys have, but
Yeah,
several
yeah.
times a week I'm in there live with you guys.
My business partner Danny, she's a beast. She runs a lot of that stuff, and then I get on, a couple times a month and run some of them as well. But yeah, it's like there's very consistently engagement, and like some people are super active in it, and other people's are very passive. So it's kind of like it's whatever you want it to be.
Mm-hmm. And guys, right, like I said, if you comment indie film on this live, and if you're watching this after it's been
Yeah.
live, we'll send you a direct link. That's actually my affiliate link, so which I'm really proud of,
Yeah.
guys. So
Oh, and
also,
also one of the other things we started offering only to people who are in the program is we do offer the service of breaking down and doing these global projections for people's projects. But again, like we only do that for people within our program.
yeah. Well, another thing, I just seen Danny. Hi, Danny. Comment on, and it looks like you guys are doing a workshop tomorrow. So, guys, if you're still
Yeah.
unsure about the course, go watch that workshop tomorrow, and I'm pretty sure you're going to be convinced. But then come
Yeah.
back and use my affiliate link, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, we'll make sure that you have the right link for the workshop. So, we're doing a workshop the next 2 days. Tomorrow, Wednesday morning, 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and then again on Thursday morning, 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and then we'll do Friday just a Q&A. But we'll do a whole workshop on finance, film finance. You guys can sign up. It's super cheap. It's like $37 or whatever. And then if you want to elevate into the program, you can do that and obviously get discounted based on what you pay for the workshop. So if you just want to like get a taste of it, like I said, jump into our workshop in the next couple days. It's super cheap and you have no obligation to do anything beyond that. But I guarantee I'll make your head spin and give you a lot of intel that you would have never otherwise had.
I remember because there a lot of workshops come up, to get into courses. I've done a lot of those, and I remember, oh, I'll watch this one, and I remember by the end being like, I can't believe that was only $37, and like, sign me up, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And guys, that's what I'm saying. Like, the value in this is there. I mean, we know how to make most of us either film school or like we learned the art part. That's been in our head since we were a kid. I never doubted my ability to like have a vision and do the directing thing. Like you said, it was how do I get all this other stuff going? And yeah, comment indie film and get going into it, guys. All right, Mark, I want to spend the last 15 to 20 minutes here talking about your new film, which I'm
Wait.
super excited for because I'm a big Scott Adkins fan, but also I'm a big World War II buff. So putting these two things together, and I was hoping you could explain it in a way that kind of covers the stuff we've talked about. So take us to the inception of this film as a producer, how you put this package together, and then into production, and now we're right around the corner from the release.
Sure. Yeah. So my new film, it's called Prisoner of War. It's a World War II action film starring Scott Adkins. We shot it last year in the Philippines. Last July and August in the Philippines. In fact, right around this time, we were just coming home from spending almost 10 weeks in the jungle in the Philippines. But it turned out to be an amazing movie. I can't say that about all my movies. This one turned out amazing. The reviews have been like unanimously positive, which I'm ecstatic about. But basically, it is an action movie. Most of what I focus on as a producer is very action oriented. It's not everything I do, but most of what I do is action. Um, it's a genre I like. It's a genre that makes a lot of sense just from a business standpoint. It's one of the easiest. There's no such thing as easy, but it's of all the different genres you could work in, it's probably one of the smoothest genres to work in from a distribution standpoint because action transcends all language and culture and they want it in every part of the world. Not every genre does that. And it's just fun to blow shit up too. So, my longtime producing partner and collaborator, Louis Mandalore, he starred with Scott Adkins in the Debt Collector movies. So we had the relationship with Scott. Scott and I actually tried to put a movie together back in like 2017 and it didn't move forward. But anyway, Lewis had done another war movie in Thailand as a director, and Scott came to us and he said, I've never done anything like that. Like, let's talk about putting like a war movie together. And he had an idea for doing a badass martial arts movie, like set against the backdrop of a POW camp
Yeah.
during World War II. So, and actually on the movie, he's credited as story by. That's why is like he created the original concept, and then from there I took it and I ran with it, and I ended up writing the script with his input along the way. So we spent about 6 months developing the story and the script. The original idea was to shoot in Thailand. I didn't want to shoot in Thailand because a lot of movies get shot in Thailand, and I feel like they all start to look the same. And another colleague of mine who's part of the producer pool and he's in the film, Michael Copon, he had shot a movie in Philippines. And so he suggested like looking at the Philippines. And I had been to the Philippines as a tourist, so it wasn't for sorry,
You're
just
good.
phone call. When I started reading about the history that the role that the Philippines played in World War II, it kind of blew my mind because it's something that we don't hear a lot about in our history books. The reason being is like it's not a very pro-America part of the war. Our military and government basically abandoned our guys, like tens of thousands of our guys
Yeah.
in the Philippines in 1942. Um,
On death.
yeah, preceding the Death March. So anyway, I was like, this is an amazing part of World War II history that you never see in movies. So that's how kind of the idea of putting it against that backdrop came about.
And is
Um,
yours so it's set in the Philippines, shot there and set there?
yeah, we actually shot it in Subic Bay in the Philippines, which is
Oh,
about a 3 hour drive north of Manila. And it's like within 10 miles of where the actual Death March happened.
wow. Oh,
So,
wow.
so yeah, we were like in the jungle in monsoon season. Like we got hit with a giant monsoon, like destroyed our set, the whole thing. Like we shot half the movie in the pouring rain. There's like, snakes
Sounds
and
like an
monkeys
Apocalypse
and
Now production.
literally every day I would walk out to the beach away from the set and my mantra was Coppola went through this, Coppola went through this, Coppola went through this. Because I literally kind of bet big on this movie. Like I always say, I bet the farm on this movie. And um like it was an all or nothing move for me. It was not all or nothing. It was kind of a do or die move for me to
Wow.
bet as big as I did. In the Philippines, I know there was somebody watching from the Philippines who asked me to talk about it. Um, Philippines is not the friendliest place in the world to shoot. And what I mean by that is the people are wonderful,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it's a very challenging place. The the production practices of the way the Filipinos run their crews and deal with money and things like that, very, very third world. There were a lot of things we were not prepared for. There was a lot of, corruption and shiftiness and, miscommunication. Just because you're speaking the same language as people doesn't mean you mean the same thing, you know? I'll give an example. The Filipinos, that they're the nicest people, but they'll never tell you no. And as the jefe, if you can't do something, I don't want you to tell me yes. I want you to tell me no. But no matter what I asked for or insisted on, they would say yes, sir, no problem, sir. And then half the time they wouldn't be able to deliver on it.
Yeah. God.
That got very cumbersome very quickly. I remember, because it was the rainy season, it was like, it'd be pissing rain and then the sun would come out and then the sun would go away all within like a 2 minute time space. So it's like you're shooting scenes and there's no consistency. So I remember we asked for a rain machine. We said, can we get a rain machine so that if the rain stops, we can add our own rain and whatever? Yes, sir. No problem, sir. We'll have it on standby. So this was like 3 days before I knew we needed it. So then 2 days before, I said to the guy, do we have the rain machine? Did you get it? Yes, sir. It's on standby. Okay, great. The day before, we have the rain machine? Yes, sir. We have it. It's on standby. Okay, great. Then on the day, we need the rain machine. Go get the rain machine. Okay, sir. We need 4 hours though. I said, why do you need 4 hours? It's in Manila. What do you mean it's in Manila? They said it's on standby in Manila. Stupid me, for 3 days. I was being told it was on standby. I thought it was in the fucking truck. It was 4 hours away. So it's like there were a lot of things that were aggravating to say the least. But we shot an incredible film. The crew for the most part was amazing. The talent, the stuntmen, the extras, these extras were incredible, standing out in ankle high mud, like barefoot for days at a time. They were, not making much money, but they were having the time of their lives. But excuse me, but yeah, it was.
Please tell me there's going to be behind the scenes of this.
Oh yeah, there's plenty. Yeah, it was a hellish experience, but it was amazing. If I went back at some point, there's definitely things I would do differently. But the movie turned out great. It's in a handful of theaters, but I don't even want people to go see it in the theaters. I want people to watch it, like buy it, rent it, whatever. It's coming out on Apple TV and Amazon and all the different pay-per-view and all the TVOD networks. And eventually it'll be on like Hulu or Stars or wherever a few months down the road. But it comes out this Friday, September 19th, Prisoner of War. Definitely check it out. If you like action movies, this does not disappoint. And, I'm not saying this as the writer or producer. I'm saying this based on the reviews. People are saying this is the best movie Scott Adkins has made. As an actor and as an action star. They're saying it's one of his best.
And that's impressive because he's done some stuff.
Yeah, yeah, but this is different too. Like my approach is always like I'm not reinventing the wheel here, I'm not making Oscar bait movies or festival movies. I make commercial movies. I make action movies mostly, but like my take as the producer is like how can I check all the boxes and do all the formulas that all the distributors and everybody wants, but do it a little bit better than everyone else? Mm-hmm. And usually that comes down to script, story, and like figuring out the tweak. Like Scott does a lot of movies, but he's never done a World War II movie. And that's why I wanted to make this one. I didn't want to make another movie that, not to like insinuate anything negative, but like some of his movies on paper kind of look the same if you put them all side by side. They all have their own thing, but like a lot of them kind of look the same. Mm-hmm. Ours doesn't look like any of those. And so like that to me is like an example of how you pivot and can still make that movie everybody wants, but do it in a way that's going to stand out.
No, I love everything you said there because like when I start to use the language you use and like to help other filmmakers, some people, especially your really artsy friends, are like, "Whoa, are you turning into the commercial guy?" And it's like, no. these formulas, story structure still matters, but and a lot of people don't realize that the movies they love that they think are so unique, they are, but it's only by a couple little percentage things. They are following story structure. They're doing the things that make it commercial, but you just got some real artists behind there doing exactly what you said, that little thing that's different. I mean, World War II movie, yes, but Prisoner of War movie, okay, yes, but not in this way, right? And like
Yeah.
bringing all those things together, and then, like you said, too, mixing up with the acting and everything, you're giving something that, like, I saw the trailer and I'm like, oh, of course, it's checking boxes. My producer
Yeah.
brain's going up, but my director brain's like, whoa, I haven't seen this. And like when you hit both those things at once, that's the formula. And the reason I was smiling so much while you were talking the story is I know I've told you a little bit about the film we made last year, but exact same situation.
Yeah.
Kind of risked it all in the jungle. We were in Indonesia, not the Philippines, but I mean, everything you said, I
Same
had a
difference. Same
flashback.
difference. Same difference.
And I've been
Yeah.
to the Philippines too. In 20, one of my favorite countries, like just incredible. And like you
One
said,
of
the
one of mine
nicest
too.
people. But yeah, a lot of tough
Yeah.
logistical things because it
But
is
like
still a third
we've
world country.
yeah, and we've shot in Eastern Europe. We've shot in Mexico. Like we've shot in other third world countries. Philippines was definitely the most third world experience I ever
Hmm.
had. One of my favorite countries too. Like I would go back again and again as a tourist.
Yeah. Oh
I would
yeah.
have to think long and hard about doing another movie there. Not saying I wouldn't, but I would do things a lot differently and definitely at a different time of year. But look, what you're saying, it's like you can still have artistic integrity and be commercial. You know what I mean? But the fact of the matter is like if you don't button up your business, your art doesn't mean shit.
Yep. Yep.
You
Well,
know?
Mark, thank you so much. The last thing I want to do is just get through some
Sure.
of the live questions here.
Great.
We got someone, oh, a bunch of people saying they're going to be checking out Prisoner of War. Yeah, guys, go
Sweet.
check it out. I know
By
I
the way, guys, these I'm going to point these out. I was in Greece. My business partner Lewis was shooting Big Fat Greek Wedding 3 in Greece a couple years ago, and I was in Athens and I found a street artist who is making these are records on the wall with different movie characters. Obviously, you got The Crow and The Professional and Alfred Hitchcock, but these are actual vinyl records with these iconic images on them. So, for whatever that's worth, I thought I'd point it out.
it's funny because I saw someone say, I think someone who knows you, they said, oh, a real legend would have posters, LOL Mark. So I think that's someone who knows you, but
Yeah, believe it or not, I don't put posters of my movies up. I always get posters printed and I give them to like my folks and my friends. I don't have any posters anywhere on my walls.
someone,
And you
oh,
know
this
what? You
is,
know what? I'm also one of those people like you watch your movie so many times. This Friday we're going to go to opening night, and I joke. I'm like, it's the last time I'm going to watch the movie for probably 10 years.
dude, I'm sick of my movie. I mean, I haven't seen it with the VFX and I got my composer doing stuff. So I'm sure when all that's done, that'll be nice. But it's like, oh my gosh, I cannot watch this again.
Yeah, yeah.
Someone says, this is an interesting one. What ways can you make money from short films, if at all?
I think there are two reasons to make short films, and neither of them involve money. You make a short film either as a calling card for your talent in front of or behind the camera, or you make a short film as a proof of concept for something bigger. Uh, Not to say there's not ways to monetize a short film, but nobody makes a career out of short films. Not even the guy who wins the Oscar for short film makes a career out of making short films. A
Yeah.
short film is a stepping stone to something bigger. So
Yep.
I think there's validity to making shorts, but you're not going to like just make shorts for the rest of your life.
Yep.
Hopefully,
This is a good question and one that's kind of relevant to me. Does the quality of the movie even matter if it's complete, but you don't have the star power potential behind it?
yeah, absolutely. So one of the most successful films I've ever been involved in is there's a movie. Okay, I'll tell you the story as expeditiously as possible. In 2017, somebody showed me a movie. It was called Nowhere Land. And it was a tiny little, like, under $100,000 budget, no well known names in it, no known names, non union movie, female writer director. And it was about an aging prostitute grooming her 15-year-old daughter to take her place. So it dealt with like the harsh underbelly of sex workers in LA, and it was one of the most poignant independent films I'd ever seen. I watched, I was like, oh my God, this thing is like I watched it twice. It was like it's just one of those movies that kicks you in the gut. So I went to the filmmaker. Her name is Robin, and I said, "Look, I really want to help you with this film because I want to make sure people don't like try to exploit this in the wrong way. Because I could see distributors are such scumbags; they'll take something and make it look like something it's not just to sell it.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
felt like this was prime like bait for that. So I said, I really get what this is. I think it's a special film and I want to be a part of it. I spent a year trying to sell it. Nobody would touch it. Most people wouldn't even watch it. But when we finally got it released, it went viral and became one of the top trending movies for over a year on Tubi and Amazon. And to put it into perspective, most indie films, if they're lucky, they do 100,000 hours viewed on Amazon. This thing did several million hours viewed on
Wow.
Amazon. And not to say it made anyone rich, it didn't, but like the business it did relative to its budget was completely legit. And again, it was like a little lightning in a bottle hit. We ended up making a second film, which I EP'd, called Girl Lost a or sorry. So the original title was Nowhere Land. We released it under the title Girl Lost. We changed
That's
the
right. You
title.
mentioned that in the course. Yeah.
And then we made the follow-up film Girl Lost a Hollywood Story, and now we're slowly developing a third one as well. But these things have massive followings. Um, Robin, the director, she gets hundreds, if not thousands, of messages from mostly women who are like, "Thank you for making these movies. Like, I went through something like this, or I watched it with my daughter, or whatever." It's like these movies have become very poignant with like a significant following, but those are super low budget movies with no well known actors. But
Yeah.
again, it was just like lightning in a bottle,
In
you
your
know?
mind, where is that budget level where if you don't have somebody pretty known, you start to creep into dangerous territory? And if you are one of those, what are things they could do to maybe mitigate that? I know in my case, I always talk to you about I'm kind of going and banking on this really niche audience that will come through despite not having stars in mind. But in your mind, where's
Yeah.
that level a lot of times?
I mean, I don't understand. It doesn't compute to me like how you're going to spend like mid to high six figures or seven figures without having some kind of star power driving it, like legitimate star power. That just doesn't compute to me. Although people figure out ways to do it. Um, you know, just because somebody has a big following doesn't make them bankable. I
Hmm.
think that's a huge misconception. Oh, so and so has 2 million followers. It's like means nothing to distributors because most influencers or web celebrities cannot actually convert those numbers. So,
Because half of them are
I don't, yeah, probably. But it's like, it's funny the movie stars in the Philippines. They have like there's a real well known actress in our movie Prisoner of War from the Philippines. She's like real well known girl in the Philippines. She
sorry.
has like she has like 5 times as many followers as Scott Adkins, who's an internationally known movie star.
Hmm.
She has like I don't know 4 or 5 times as many followers, but like they don't mean anything relative to Scott's followers because they're the fans and we know that he's going to convert them. We know that his fans are going to buy it, you
Yeah.
know?
Well, then this is a segue into one of the last questions that people were really adamant on was actors and how to get actors both, and what's the difference between why bigger films get actors? It's probably just a money thing, and in
Yeah.
our indie film world, how do you go about that famous catch 22? You usually can't
Yeah.
get the money without the actor, but you usually can't get the actor without the money.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's another thing I do a whole deep dive on in our program is like
Yeah.
some of the strategies I've learned over the years of how to leverage that and like how to overcome the catch 22. Um, it's not easy, but one thing I'll say is that agents are becoming more and more obsolete as time moves on. Because now in the age of social media, people potentially have direct access to talent. But honestly, if you're just starting out, one of the best ways, in my opinion, to get access to well known talent is to attach yourself to other professionals who have more of a track record than you do. So it's like, if I got involved with a movie with a first timer who knows nobody, but now all of a sudden I'm involved as a producer or as a sales agent or whatever, I could cast your movie out of my cell phone. You know how many like agents, managers, or actors I know directly just from all the work I've done? So again, just by mining your network, that's probably the best way. Um, but there's a lot of other strategies I have in our program for like how to kind of like move the needle and make that happen. But at the end of the day, even if you have access to people, you still have to have content that's going to get them excited.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'll tell you, actors always have two salaries. They have the one they're going to charge, they're going to demand if they love something, and they have the one they're going to demand if it's just a payday.
Yeah. Gotcha. That's really important. Well, and I love what you said. That's kind of always been my motto is like surrounding yourself with the people that are what they're meant to do. Now, in order to do that though, I would say you have to wear that producer hat and provide an opportunity that is attractive, right? You're not going to get
Yeah,
people that are better than you to join you for no reason, right? Not
that's
for
right.
charity. I mean, that was my mission on my movie, especially since I wasn't going to be able to pay most all the people that did it. So I had to like present an opportunity that is actually worth their while. And in my case, it was like, hey guys, look what we've done. Look what my
Yeah.
DP's done. This is more on the actor side, since this is about actors. I would have never have guessed a year before that I was going to get the actors that I got. And none of them were big names, but the talent level was just
Yeah.
amazing. And that was really due to putting a team together and then convincing them this is what the images will look like. This is what we can do. And then I was talking about marketing and distribution and this niche audience and just trying to convince them that I'm going to do everything in my power, not to make the best movie, but that I'm not one of those filmmakers that's going to stop there. We're going out afterwards and I'm going to do everything like what we're doing right now, building
Yeah.
this brand. That's what it's for. And I think, they would have to confirm, but I think that was very crucial in them going, yeah, I want to go do this pretty insane journey, in the jungle, like what you were saying. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
really like what you said there.
Yeah. And you know what? Look, my first movie, which literally the budget was $45,000, I had a real well known actor in that movie. How did I get him? Is because I cast my leading actor as just a young, unknown, very talented actor, and his agent represented this other, much more well known actor. So the
Mm.
agent was like, okay, I can take my well known actor, put him in this movie for 2 days for not much money, but like, it's a good project, and put him opposite my up and coming actor. And, I did a little package deal there and it
Oh,
worked
yeah.
out. It was great.
Wow.
She
Really?
gave me one of her bigger clients because she's like, here's an opportunity, put one of my bigger clients opposite one of my smaller clients, elevate the smaller client. But like, it was a win-win for everybody,
Mm.
because the bigger actor, he only came in for a couple days.
Yeah, no, that is genius. And guys, that's just one of the tiny gems in this course for everyone asking that question. So comment indie film, go check out the course. Okay,
Yeah.
last thing, Mark, on the sales agent side of things. One of my friends reached out to me. We're going to keep it anonymous, but he's being approached by some sales agents right now. He recently just made a really good proof of concept film, and as a director, I can tell he's going to go places. Now he wants to turn this into a feature. He's got a sales agent reaching out to him who wants to, one, charge 30% off the top of everything, wants worldwide rights, does want upfront fees, and also this particular sales agent has never been a sales agent before. This would be their first film. Because of what you've said in your course, was kind of telling him this sounds very problematic to me. I'm also, based on a lot of things you've taught me, trying to tell him you don't even need to be talking to
So
sales.
wait. Sorry to cut you off, but
Yeah, yeah.
like you told me everything that they want, but what are they bringing to the table?
I mean, that's kind of what I was saying.
Like I don't know. I don't pay people if they're not bringing me something of value.
Yeah. So explain to us what a shady sales agent is by your standard and what you think a good sales agent is and what people should be looking for in one.
Yeah, I mean, sales agents should be communicative, collaborative, and transparent. They should not be predatory in their terms. And they should, what else? A good friend of mine who's also a sales agent, he said something once that always stuck with me. The sales agent and the producer, we should win and lose together.
Mm, mm,
There shouldn't just be an upside for the sales agent.
mm-hmm.
So like as a sales agent, I only work on commission. I don't make money unless the film makes money.
Nice.
And a lot of times I end up putting a lot of time, effort, and sweat equity into something before I even see a dollar. So if there's just like predatory terms where it's like, oh, well, the first, 50,000 is going in their pocket for, upfront fees and expenses and whatever, it's like, well, wait a second. That's not right. There's ways to structure it so that you win and lose together.
Mm-hmm.
It should be a partnership,
Yeah,
but a
I
lot of
agree.
sales agents, they just operate on volume and they don't give a shit. And they'll never return your phone call and they'll never send you a report and they'll never send you the money they owe you.
So
And
the
their
sales
accounting
agent's
is shifty and
library
whatever.
inside of it, you're saying, is very important to look at. If they have a ton of films that might be sketchy.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's ways to vet sales agents, looking at the catalog. If they have, 5,000 titles in their catalog, what makes yours special?
Mm-hmm.
You know, do they have other films that are comparable to yours, which shows track record? But on the same front, you don't want somebody who has 20 other movies that look just like yours,
Yeah.
because what's their incentive to push yours? So yeah, there's a lot of things you can tell just by looking at the catalog. Every sales agent is going to dangle the carrot and tell you they're a huge fan of your movie and blah, 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 blah. Like they're all just like scummy used car salesmen,
Most of them are
you
kind
know?
of playing a numbers game, correct? That is what it seems
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that.
And look, the business is getting more volume driven. So it's getting harder to focus on quality over quantity.
Mm-hmm.
So like I acknowledge that. But, again, there are good sales agents out there. There's a lot of not good ones. There are some very good ones. So again, like being able to vet the sales agent is imperative because you only get one shot. I get a lot of filmmakers who come to me. They're like, I put my movie through the sales agent. They did a crap job. Now the movie's been in the market for 2 years, which means it's already been shopped. Now we got it back. We want to give it to you. Can you help us? And it's like, well, I can try, but at this point, it's a salvage mission,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
So it's important to like learn how to vet sales agents so that you make the right choice up front. Because if you make the wrong choice up front, you can have an amazing film and they just mishandle it.
And does someone need to even be approaching a sales agent in this early financing pre-production
Yeah,
phase?
yeah, there's no reason why not. Like sales agents don't want to be bothered if the movie's not real. If like you're like, I have a script, I don't care.
Yeah.
But if you're like, hey, we have a director attached and we're going into production this fall and like this is what we're planning to do. Yeah, there's no reason why you shouldn't get on the radar of sales agents early on. They can be good allies for you in terms of like providing you with projections or giving you advice on which actors to go after, an array of things.
Yeah. Wow. Well, hey, Mark, I think that was incredible information. I hope
Good.
everyone got the value out of it that I did, because if anything, that was amazing. So,
Yeah,
guys,
good.
Mark's course, comment indie film. We will send you the link. That's my affiliate link if you want to support us. And I can't praise it enough. Mark, tell us anything else about the course,
Yeah.
where people can find you
So
and all that stuff.
yeah, definitely. Sign up for our workshop for the next 2 days. Again, it's tomorrow, Wednesday, and the day after, Thursday, both at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Join the workshop just to like get a taste of it. It's super cheap. You have no obligation. So check that out. Like I said, just what do they have to write to you?
And an indie film on this live. And guys, if you're watching
Yeah,
this not
great.
live, just comment indie film, and you will get a direct message from us that will send you
Yeah,
the link to the course.
yeah, and then
It's also in
you
my
can.
bio. The link is in my bio right now as well.
Yep. And then you can find me at M Clebanoff, my first initial, last name, at M Clebanoff on Instagram if you want to follow all my movie stuff. And yeah, if you like action movies, Prisoner of War this Friday, starring Scott Adkins. Check it out. It's available for pre-order on Apple TV, or you can wait Friday, see it on Amazon,
Mark, are
Apple,
there any theaters in
Hulu, anywhere
Florida
else.
that I can go to?
Not, I don't think there's one in Florida. Atlanta
I'll get
might
it
be
on the stream.
I think Atlanta is the closest one to you,
Okay,
unfortunately.
okay. Well, we'll get it
Yeah.
on the streamer here in the office soon.
Yes, please do.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Mark. It was a
All right.
pleasure. And hopefully
Yep.
we can do this again
All right. Cheers, guys. Thank you.
later.